He thought the danger was outside the gates. He was wrong. It was walking right next to him. The guards at the presidential gates stood watchful but calm, unaware that the real danger wasn't outside. It was already inside, wearing the uniform of loyalty. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, leaned back from his desk in the late-night quiet of his study. He had just finished reading a classified intelligence brief. Tense words about foreign interference, whispers of a plot brewing in Abidjan, maybe backed by France, but nothing concrete. He rubbed his eyes and rose from his chair. As he stepped into the private hallway leading to his quarters, a familiar figure was waiting. "Late-night cousin?" Ibrahim asked, surprised but not alarmed. Yacouba Traoré stood tall, dressed in his usual black uniform, broad-shouldered, calm, always unreadable. "I'll walk you to your room," Yacouba said with an easy grin. Ibrahim smiled faintly. "Didn't think you were on shift." "Couldn't sleep," Yacouba replied. "Figured I'd stay close. Things feel off lately." Ibrahim gave a tired nod. "Yeah, I feel it too." They walked side by side down the dimly lit corridor. The palace was unusually quiet. Too quiet. No aides, no echo of distant radios. The hallway cameras, normally always on, were offline for maintenance. Ibrahim didn't know that was a lie. Inside Yacouba's jacket, tucked under a stitched panel, was a silenced pistol. The weapon had been handed to him 2 months ago during a secret trip to Abidjan. Something Ibrahim never knew about. That night, French agents posing as diplomats had pulled Yacouba aside. "We know who you are," they'd said. "You want a better life? Money, protection, exile, do one thing, one clean shot, no witnesses." He hadn't answered them then, but he had taken the gun. Now each step down the hallway felt heavier. This was his cousin, his commander. He, a man who'd fought beside him in the bush, trusted him more than anyone. They'd bled together, slept in trenches, survived ambushes side by side. And yet this was the window. The hallway was empty. The cameras, disabled by another traitor on the palace tech team, wouldn't record a thing. It would take 1 second, one shot, and he'd be free. Yacouba slowed as they reached Ibrahim's door. His hand brushed against the inside of his jacket. Ibrahim paused. "You all right?" Yacouba hesitated, eyes locked on his cousin's face. Something flickered behind them. Guilt, confusion, or maybe fear. "Yeah," Yacouba said quietly. "Just tired, that's all." But his fingers stayed near the gun. This was it. The point of no return. Ibrahim turned to thank Yacouba. But then he saw it. A flicker in the eyes. A subtle shift in the stance. Yacouba's right hand dipping under his jacket. Too fast. Too focused. The kind of movement you don't notice unless you've trained, fought, and bled beside a man. Ibrahim didn't hesitate. He struck first. His left hand snapped forward, grabbing Yacouba's wrist just as the pistol cleared the fabric. The gun slipped and clattered to the floor, skidding across the marble tiles. Yacouba dove, but Ibrahim moved faster. He kicked the weapon down the hall, drew his own sidearm from his hip holster, and leveled it squarely at Yacouba's chest. Silence. Only the hum of a distant ceiling fan filled the air. Yacouba slowly raised his hands, his face pale, eyes wide. "Ibrahim, listen to me." Ibrahim didn't lower the gun. "What are you doing?" His voice was quiet, cold, controlled. Yacouba's chest heaved. Sweat traced down his temple. "I had no choice," he whispered. "They have my sister." Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Yacouba looked away. "Yacouba," Ibrahim repeated louder this time. "Who sent you?" "They're watching everything," Yacouba said barely above a whisper. "If I talk, they'll kill us both." But it was already too late for secrets. The plan had failed. The betrayal was exposed. The lie undone. What Ibrahim didn't know yet was that Yacouba wasn't acting alone. This wasn't personal. It was part of something massive. A plan forged not in Burkina Faso, but across the border in a quiet villa in Abidjan. Maps had been marked, names circled, bribes handed out, and at the center of it all, Ibrahim Traoré, the target, the obstacle, the man they feared most. Still holding the gun steady, Ibrahim studied his cousin. The silence between them was thick with disbelief. "I trusted you," he said at last, voice heavy. You ate at my table. You slept under my roof. I called you my brother. Yakuba's lips trembled. I know. Then why? Yakuba shut his eyes, and the memory returned, sharp and brutal. The basement room, his younger sister bound to a chair, crying without a sound. A man behind the camera spoke with a flat French accent. You fail us, she dies. I thought I could stall, Yakuba muttered. Warn you at the last second. I thought I could find a way out. He opened his eyes, guilt weighing down every word. But they're inside already. I was followed even inside the palace. Ibrahim's grip tightened. They didn't just send you. Yakuba nodded slowly. No, there are others. How many? 3. One in the kitchen, one in communications, and one of your drivers. Ibrahim's jaw clenched. His inner circle breached. His own house poisoned. How did they reach you? He asked quietly. Yakuba took a breath and for the first time told the truth. I crossed into Ivory Coast during leave. 2 French agents intercepted me. They knew everything. My rank, my history, even where my sister studied. They didn't ask, they ordered. They knew I wouldn't say no, Yakuba said quietly. Not with my sister on the line. His voice wavered, not from fear, but from exhaustion. The weight of betrayal pressing down. They said, you're dangerous. That you're turning Africa into a weapon. That if you push the continent out of their grip, they'll lose everything. They said, you're a threat they can't afford to ignore. Ibrahim let the words hang in the silence. Then slowly he lowered the gun. With a flick of his wristwatch, a silent alert went out. Footsteps echoed down the hall. For elite guards. Peered, rifles raised, awaiting orders. Ibrahim kept his eyes on Yakuba. Take him to the black room, he said. Alive, no harm. I'll speak to him again in the morning. Yakuba didn't resist. He met Ibrahim's gaze one last time before turning and walking away into the shadows. When the guards were gone, Ibrahim stood alone. He locked the door behind him, leaned against it, and exhaled. His hands shook, not from fear, but fury. Not because someone tried to kill him, but because of who it was. This wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was a message. No bullets, no bombs, no spectacle. They'd sent someone he trusted. Someone he loved because they didn't want to kill him. They wanted to break him. He crossed the room and opened a drawer. Inside lay a red sealed file stamped Operation Serpent. He eased the seal and unfolded a coffee ring dossier page. Handwritten rendezvous in Abidjan. Each scroll a promise of betrayal. Back then it was a threat. Now it was at his door. He flipped through the file. One name stood out, underlined in black ink. General Laurent Brisac, retired French intelligence, now off the books, still pulling strings in West Africa. The man who turned Yakuba, likely behind the failed poisoning in Bobo Dioulasso 3 months ago. This wasn't espionage. It was invasion. Ibrahim grabbed a secure satellite phone and dialed Colonel Tapsoba, head of internal intelligence. They've reached the inner circle, he said. Tapsoba responded immediately. You want a sweep? No, Ibrahim said. I want the system ripped open. Every name, everything's airprint, every foreign call made inside this palace, logged, traced, interrogated, understood. No one leaves, no one sleeps. This is war. He ended the call. Across the border in a villa outside Abidjan, General Laurent Brisac received a single-line message on his encrypted device. The attempt failed. He knows. Brisac didn't flinch. He lit a cigar, leaned back, and stared into the night. So he murmured, smoke curling around him. He's still alive. He smiled faintly, but not for long. The sun rose over Ouagadougou, casting long shadows across the quiet streets. Inside the presidential palace, dawn brought no peace, only pressure. Captain Ibrahim Traoré moved briskly through the halls, jaw clenched, eyes tired. The assassination attempt still echoed in his mind. But there was no time for reflection. The war had begun. In a secure underground room, his top advisors waited. Signal jammers lined the walls. Nothing got in or out. Trust was scarce. Traoré entered without ceremony. We can't trust anyone, he said, voice sharp. My own cousin tried to kill me last night. A murmur rippled across the room. Lieutenant Kaber, head of security, stood. We've launched a full sweep. Staff, vendors, visitors, reviewing logs and surveillance now. It won't be enough, Traore replied. They're embedded too deep. Kitchen staff, drivers, communications move too fast and they vanish. Madame Ouedraogo, his foreign affairs advisor, leaned in. This is more than an attack on you. It's an assault on our sovereignty. Exactly. Traore said. That's why I'm reaching out to Moscow and Beijing. We need tools, cyber, and signal intelligence. We traced this to its source. No one objected. The rules had changed. Far away, in a hidden safe house in Abidjan, General Laurent Brazac stared out a window, the city silent below. His phone buzzed. A coded message appeared. Traore is mobilizing. Countermeasures ready. He smiled. A table nearby held stacks of folders, photos, files, satellite images. Operatives buried in West African governments as sets waiting to strike. He picked up a secure line. The cousin failed, said a scrambled voice, French accent distorted. But the operation continues. The doctor in Bobo is ready. Escalation is underway. Good, Brock said, lighting a cigar. He must be broken, not killed. Not yet. Back in Ouagadougou, Traore sat in his office, staring into the courtyard. His thoughts drifted to Yakuba, his cousin, once trusted, now in chains. He remembered the look in Yakuba's eyes. Guilt, fear, shame. They turned family into weapons. His phone buzzed. Colonel Tapsoba, intelligence chief. We've started interrogations. Some staff are talking. Others not yet, but we're closing in. Traore paused. Then find out who disabled the hallway cameras and who tipped Yakuba off about surveillance. Yes, sir. Just then, the door opened. A young officer rushed in, pale and breathless. Mr. President, urgent update. We intercepted a live call between a Bajan and a local contact. Code names Serpent and Cobra were used. Traore's eyes narrowed. Only a handful inside the palace knew those names. They're inside, he said. They've mapped us. He stood, the fire in him rising. Then we turn the map against them. Feed them lies. Ghost missions. Let them chase shadows. He faced his team. This is no longer defense. From today we hunt. That night, Captain Ibrahim Traoré sat alone in his office. The hum of electronics and the slow tick of a wall clock filled the silence. His desk was covered with maps, intercepted calls, and intelligence reports. He picked up a secure phone and dialed. General, he said quietly, this isn't a palace issue anymore. This is a war for Africa's future, and we will win. He hung up. Outside, a figure moved in the shadows near the garden wall, silent, watching, then gone. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. The palace transformed into a fortress. Gourdies were doubled. Security systems replaced and re-encrypted. Every staff member, regardless of rank, was revet. But fear spread faster than protocol. Traore felt it in the hushed tones, the nervous glances, the silence that followed him into rooms. Something was coming. Then one evening, his secure phone buzzed. Operation Serpent compromised. New orders accelerate. His jaw clenched. France was panicking. Their next move would come fast and without subtlety. The following morning, a black diplomatic car pulled up to the gates. A senior Ivorian official stepped out, requesting a private meeting. Traore, wary but curious, agreed. Inside a sealed room, the man spoke in a low voice. I'm not here on orders. This is personal. The people who turned Yakuba, they've placed someone even closer. Traore's eyes narrowed. Who? Moussa Traore, your cousin. Head of your driver unit. The president went still. Moussa had been with him for years. Quiet, loyal, trusted. Why him? They want access, motorcade routes, security overrides, blind spots. It's all mapped through him. They plan to strike from inside. Traore said nothing, then turned and walked out. Detain him now. Moussa didn't break. He denied everything. Calm, clear, consistent. No panic, no hesitation. He's either innocent, one interrogator said, or very well trained. Behind the mirrored glass, Traore watched him. His own blood now a question mark. Then an idea surfaced. He called his closest advisors. We stop reacting. It's time to take control. The plan, don't break Musa and Yakuba. Use them. Both would remain under watch, but appear forgiven. Their messages to French handlers would continue. Written by Traore's intelligence team. Colonel Tapsoba frowned. You turning them into double agents. They're not agents, Traore replied. They're pieces, and this is our board now. The trap was laid. Musa and Yakuba resumed contact. Every word they sent was designed: false troop deployments, fake weaknesses, planned misinformation, and the enemy believed. Inside the palace, every move was part of a larger game. French operatives adjusted their strategies, unaware they were following a script. Outside, the world saw calm. Inside, a silent war was raging, and Captain Ibrahim Traoré was no longer on defense. He was on the hunt. One night, Captain Ibrahim Traoré walked alone through the palace gardens. The rain had just passed. The air smelled of earth, and moonlight stretched long across the stone paths. That's when he saw him, Musa, standing still by the hedges. Part in shadow, part in light. Their eyes locked. No words were spoken, but in that silence, everything was understood. This war was no longer political. It was personal, and only one side would walk away. Behind the scenes, the operation moved forward. Every message Musa and Yakuba sent to their French handlers was now scripted by Traoré's intelligence team. An elegant web of disinformation. They fed lies about troop movements, fabricated security flaws, and staged infighting within the palace. The French took the bait. Their handlers pushed harder. Send coordinates. Give us names. Who guards the rear gates? Every request was answered with false details designed to mislead. Meanwhile, Traoré's team traced transmissions and slowly pieced together the enemy's network across West Africa. Silent, patient, precise. But the toll of betrayal weighed heavily on Musa. One evening, he entered the palace library, a quiet room untouched by surveillance. He closed the door and faced Traore. I can't keep doing this, he said, voice low. I'm lying to them, to you, to myself. They promised my family protection if I helped. But I feel like I'm being torn apart. Traore looked at him, not as an asset, but as a man he'd trusted for years. Well, protect your family, he said calmly. But I need you to hold the line. This fight is bigger than us. Bigger than blood. USA nodded. Unsure but willing. That was enough. In Abidjan, General Laurent Brisac paced his safe house, eyes scanning intercepted messages. He lit a cigar, hands shaking. They're stalling, he muttered. Something's wrong. He ordered an immediate escalation. Strike now before they regroup. But Traore was already prepared. Thanks to Musa and Yakuba's planted intel, every move the French-backed mercenaries made had been anticipated. When they crossed into Burkina Faso, they walked into an ambush. Traoré's forces struck fast, coordinated, ruthless. Key operatives were captured, documents seized, names revealed. Proof of French interference. Proof of betrayal from within. Within hours, the world knew. Burkinabé president foils foreign plot. Betrayal becomes breakthrough. A president nearly assassinated by his own cousins had flipped the operation and exposed a colonial shadow campaign. At the press podium, Traore spoke without notes. Colonial shadows will no longer poison Africa's future. We fight with unity, with intelligence, and with courage. And across Africa, people listened. After the attack failed, Traoré's position solidified. His strength came not from fear, but from truth. He hadn't just survived. He had exposed the machine behind the curtain. Captured operatives were handed over to international courts. The evidence revealed covert operations spanning the region, shattering myths about foreign aid and partnership. Inside the palace, Traore gathered his top advisors. We won a battle, he said, but Africa's war for dignity continues. We must stop relying on outsiders who call themselves allies but act like masters. We train our own. We defend our own. We rise on our terms. Around the table, no one disagreed. Musa and Yakuba, once seen as traitors, were reassigned. Closely watched but trusted to rebuild security from within. They had helped save the country with the same loyalty they had nearly buried. The world took note, and in the quiet halls of foreign intelligence, the name Ibrahim Traoré became once spoken with caution. He was no puppet, no placeholder. He was a soldier, a strategist, a survivor, and he had proven one thing: Africa will not be ruled from the outside. Not anymore. Years later, historians would call this moment a turning point. Not just for Burkina Faso, but for a continent long underestimated. In classrooms, rebel camps, and government halls from Dar to Nairobi, his name echoed. A warning, a legacy, a promise. Traore will not kneel and Africa will not break. If the story gripped you, if you believe in Africa rising, betrayal turning into strength, and truth outsmarting power, like the video, subscribe for more stories they don't want you to hear. We're just getting started. The next chapter is coming. Stay sharp. Stay free.